Sit. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, finally, we got everything works out, and so we will start the program. First of all, my name is Esawi. I'm a data science by training, and I've been programming in Python, primarily in R, for a long time. When I first was approached to give this talk, I thought, how could you give a talk about Python in an hour or an hour and a half? It's nearly impossible to do. And given the enormity of Python, nobody else actually could do that, even if you try, and especially in 2 hours. You can't even introduce one of the modules in 2 hours. And so what would you do? And I thought, also, I don't know what the background of the participant that much. And I figured, if you are very good at Python, probably you wouldn't be here. You don't need to be here, because you know that you're not going to learn as much in an hour or two, or 2 hours. So the way this talk was structured is, I'm going to talk about the connection between data science and Python. And given the fact that data science and cybersecurity and security in general are probably two of the hottest, the hottest basically in the market. If you're data science or if you're cybersecurity, you have plenty of jobs. So what I did, one thing is, I watched the two speakers that they gave this similar talk before. And what they did is, basically, they have their specialty and they talk with their specialty, and they wrote a lot of script in the computer. And I thought, I don't know if that would be really very productive. Instead, what I decided to do is, I decided to give about 40-minute, maybe plus or minus 5 minutes presentation, general, about very basic Python, about data science, and about the intersection between the two. And in the next part, I basically just put together very, very simple code. That is, if you are new to Python, or if maybe you just want to start Python, then these kind of exercises just show a few things. And basically what I do is, I have them in a text file. I'm just going to, when I do that, I cut them, paste them in the screen, and ask you to run them, or ask them at least think of what the code will do. Does it make sense to everybody here? Okay. Like I said, Python is huge. I think most of you is just probably the most, I don't know, some other people may disagree, but Python is, at least, it's always come in the first top three of when it comes to data science and a lot of other things. There are others, but I'm going to present today the side of Python. So objective of this talk, very simple, is basically to provide the general information about data science. That will be very brief. Provide introduction to Python language, and again, you cannot do justice to an introduction to Python within half an hour or so. And then present the case why Python is the de facto. Maybe there is another one. Anybody here knows or heard of something called R? Few people heard of R? R, just well, I think it's so funny. There are a lot of people who really haven't heard about it, and you can understand, because R is developed by a bunch of people, I think, in New Zealand for statistics, beginning in the 70s, and now basically whenever you see R, especially data science or Python, you see R. And in fact, this talk, I had the option whether to talk about Python or R, and I thought I'll talk this time maybe about Python, and maybe next time. And then to provide like main things about Python. And the last thing that I told you, I will, excuse me, I'll provide basically some code, some simple code for people, especially new to the language. You run it and see what we'll do. All right. First of all, is data science is very new. It's kind of new and maybe not new. What's new is because now it's established as a data science. But the truth is, data science has been with us for over a century. And I'm just going to tell very, very short story. I don't know how many of you remember your high school chemistry. And if you don't remember, I remind you, if you look at the periodic table, everybody remember what the periodic table, right? And the periodic table basically is nothing more a table for the elements organized by their atomic number, which is basically a number in the natural number. So you just 1, 2, 3. The question is, long time ago, why would then, if the number are sequential, why do you have to put them in a table? Well, they have to go back and forth, back and forth. And what the guy did is that this is a Russian chemist, and what he did is he noticed if he goes like sequentially, he knows the physical and chemical property repeated themselves, and so that's why you have a table instead of column or a row. And that's really basically finding patterns in data. That's really all what's into it. And in fact, that's really a data science. So just to give you an example, because data science is new, so when you hear data science, data analytics or analytics, they're all sound the same. And in fact, they are equivalent, they are the same. So definition of data science, it consists of 2 words, data and science. So let's define the data and define the science and combine it together, we'll get the definition of data science. So basically, data, I'm just reading it, you can read it as well. It's basic collection of pieces of information such as numbers, blah, blah, and you have basically the example that everybody's seen. This is, and then the science is also, this is a standard definition, basically is a systematically organized body of knowledge of a particular subject. In this case, you deal with data and with a general theoretical framework. Don't worry about that, but most sciences have a general, theoretical framework. You cannot really establish a science without a theoretical framework. And now is the why data is important. Well, this is not my quote here, the next one, but this is somebody else much smarter than me, I suppose. This is what they say why it's important. Data is the new oil, really? I don't know, but at least we know one thing is how much we depend on oil. These people think we will eventually depend on data as much. That's why it's very important. And I'm pretty sure everybody in this room knows data is important. If you try to buy anything online, in car or a phone or something, and just sudden, whenever you go to a website, that phone or that car shows up. That's a very good example of the use of data science. What is data? Data science is it? It's a process, basically. Data science is a process of cleaning, implementing, transferring, and modeling raw data with the goal of discovering, information from the data. So every business, and I agree that every business uses data science. Every business needs data science because now this is very, very important. What are the example of this? Is sometimes the picture may not be clear because it's hard to put them all together. But a picture, they say, worth 1,000 words, and in this case, maybe it's worth 100 words. So if you can read it, so. This is basically the general definition of data science. Foundation and tools of analytics or data science. What would you need to do to be a data scientist? Well, those are basically statistics, mathematics, and computer science. Now, some of you say, who on earth would know all these 3? And the answer is none. What the best people who publish books and expert in the field, what they normally are, they have a dual degree in 2 subjects by definition, and then they learn the third in their own. That's basically the most prolific data science are that way. What are the major area in analytics or data science? I'm pretty sure everybody heard with these. Data mining, if you are from West Virginia or from this area, at least you know what mining is. Mining, if you were a mine for coal, you're lucky sometimes if you find a very nice, clean piece of coal, but that's enough. Often doesn't happen. You need to look for it, dig for it, process it, do everything to get what you need out of it. It's the same thing. Machine learning is another very huge topic. It's too big, it's almost like hard to define, but if I were to define it in 2 or 3 words, it would be about prediction. How can you predict things? Whether you predict them statistically or graphically or one way or another. That's basically for the most part. Visualization is really a fancy term just for graphing and modeling and simulation. That's a huge topic in the science. You can model all different. You have computer modeling, you have mathematical modeling, you have statistical modeling, you have all different kinds of modeling. What are the major software tools for analytics? And here are, you see, R, Python, Excel, Ect. Let me say a word or two, and I will say a lot more about this, is with Excel. Some people, they think, I was in a meeting in Pittsburgh several weeks ago, and I was talking to a computer scientist, and I said, there are some people, they think they can do analytics with Excel, and he was really upset because lots of people don't like Excel. And it's not they don't like it because it's Excel. Some people don't like it because you really cannot do much with Excel, especially if you have big data. The truth, though, is Excel, I look at it as necessary but not sufficient. Sometimes, as long as, because if you see the data, you can figure it out. You can know what kind of code you can write for it to be able to process it. But if you don't see it, it's a little difficult. R and Python, and I put them together, and I'll talk a little bit more about them. And then you have different tools. You have basically Hadoop, TensorFlow, RabbitMiner, and all these kinds. Most of these either open source or they have a version for open source. Which one do you need depends on the task at hand. And so whatever you have, you figure out about between these, the basic and the advanced, you should be able basically to get everything you need. Who can be a data scientist? If you look at the previously, we defined what data, what science, what the tools, and therefore you'd know the definition. But this is the classic, definition years ago, and it says basically a data scientist is somebody who knows more statistics than a computer programmer and knows more programming than a statistician, whatever that means. But really, that's insufficient. That's not really a good definition. It's incomplete definition. Nowadays, I think it takes a lot more. It takes, like I said, it takes more advanced mathematics, it takes more advanced statistics, and it takes a lot of other things. Brief history of Python. I would imagine most people know something about Python. It's basically created by this guy here. He's a Dutch scientist, computer scientist. I think he worked for Google in the 90s. And I'm not sure about the story. Did he develop while he was working at Google, or he developed it after that? Not sure. The name is lots of people. In fact, I have a book. I didn't bring it. When I have the book, it has a huge lizard, and they think that's what Python name, where in fact the Python name comes from this show, which is I've never seen. I don't know. I just saw it written somewhere. So. For more information, just look at Wikipedia. And this is the guy who developed the language. Like I said, he's a Dutch guy. I was talking to my colleague here. There is a name, like most people who created something like this guy created Python, people who created C++ or any other languages. And I think they give him a title, Dictator for Life. And what that means is basically this guy has the final say in if there are, because, Python now is Python Foundation. They have a lot, maybe hundreds, if not thousands of people work there. This guy sits in the board of the Python Foundation, and at one time he was like the dictator for life, but he resigned. He said, there is no reason. There are people who know as much, if not more, about Python. Why should it? But it often is the case. And now the case for Python. In other words, if you want to learn just a programming, or particularly if you want to learn a programming to do data science or cybersecurity, why should you consider Python? Because Python is, if you think about it, is just a programming language. There are tons of them. There are just some of these. So why can't you use, especially the one they highlighted in yellow, why can't you use R, SAS, or MATLAB? At least those are a few. We look for the jobs for data science. Almost always they come, and I forgot to put SQL, because you really need that for databases. But these are the programming language. And again, the case, why not R? Why not SAS? Why not MATLAB? And the answer is, why not MATLAB? And I've said, some people heard what SAS is, imagine. Anybody heard with SAS? Nobody heard with SAS? That's okay. SAS stands for Statistical Analysis System. This is a huge company. It started in the 70s by two professors from North Carolina State University. And basically what they did is, the story of SAS and R almost identical. SAS is a commercial software company. R is open source. And so what SAS and R, they basically do almost the same thing. Even their origin, R started as a basically a statistical group, started in New Zealand. And they ended up now in R and or SAS, you can do anything. I have very little experience with MATLAB, but I understand it would do just about everything. So again, why not use one of these? And the answer is open source. Python is basically, you can, as you all know, you can download it in one computer and you can load it in 101 computer and nobody's going to ask you for money and nobody is asking you for a license. Well, R is open source too, so why can't you use R? That's a different story, maybe I'll do. Then the great scientific and mathematical support, and that is really, in my view, one of the, they're all, I mean, open source is, if you know how much SAS and MATLAB cost, and they charge you for everything, they get to the point where they could charge you by the modules. And they have very, very complicated license process and everything else. So nobody really want to use them. And the only people who use R and, MATLAB and SAS are multi-billion and million company that, what $50, $100, or $200,000 a year make a difference to them. And so they have some people who invested in SAS or MATLAB and they said, yeah, we can do it. But their share, if you look at in data science or in general, very, very, very small compared to R and SAS. And this is really what I think sets apart Python more than anything, is scientific and mathematical support. In fact, that is really the backbone of Python. I will talk a little bit of the 3 or 4 most important packages in Python, which is they call them numerical Python, scientific Python, pandas, that's basically like equivalent to a data frame, how you deal with tabulated data, and matplotlib, which is mathematical plotting library. You can do graphs and all that. Comprehensive, and this is kind of catch-22 here. When I say comprehensive, that means you can do just about everything in Python. If you know Python and you're familiar, you can do just about everything. But like anything else, even Python does not do everything you need. In other words, it's not 100%. Am I clear here? And I'll just tell you a story that has actually happened to me. About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was working on a project and I was in a discussion group with somebody who was using R, and he asked a question about something called the quadratic programming. And he said he really wanted to do this. He works in a project and he couldn't do it in R. And I said, well, you can do it in Python. And he said, I don't know how to use Python. And their question, therefore, is, especially if you are working in a company that these days it changes, so can you rely heavily on Python? Can you bit everything you have in Python, and then guess what? You get stuck and you may not be able to. And so what's the solution? The solution is always to keep something on the side just in case. That is the best thing. I would say go to Python. It would do, I'm just guessing, 95 to 99% of whatever you need to do. It's just you may get somewhere between 1 and 5% on a project that may not do what you want to do, and therefore you get stuck. Tutoring or support. As you all know, SAS and MATLAB, the commercial software, they have a lot of, basically they'll charge you for everything. If you want support, they'll charge, but they'll give it to you. In Python, it's basically, since it's open source, you can actually get a lot of support. If you are starting Python today, as long as you have an idea and you ask the right question, you can almost always get the answer within sometimes really an hour, or maybe at most in a day or two. And you get answer and you get good answer and you can solve what you need to do. Now, this is something that is, as far as I see it, is a little bit not very good in Python. And not only my own experience, but I read it somewhere. Python, because it has a lots of other packages that comes with it, and they have to be compatible, and sometimes it's very hairy to find a package. Sometimes they may not work. Sometimes they, for a lot, and it just takes a lot of time. I remember the first time I tried to install Python and all its excuse me, it took me for a long time to get it done. And if you don't have experience with these things, in fact, Python themselves says, if you want to get even an IDE, if you don't have experience, it takes some time to get these things. These are now, is basically the overall design of Python. It's a major use for runtime, and I think this should apply for every language, not just for Python. I think if you are writing code, it doesn't matter what code it is, it's important first to do it right, to make sure that you're programmed correctly, then worry about efficiency. I think that makes perfect sense. You can't worry about efficiency if your program is not working. By design, implement deliberately simple syntax. I think if you saw, it's basically indentation and a few other things, and you're good to go. It doesn't have really complicated syntax or anything. It's deliberately optimized for speed of development. That's what they say. If you are a developer, I'm not. That means you can write a lot of things and instead of you are writing in C++, you're going to write a lot of code in Python. You can write it in much shorter. And basically, it's a basically object-oriented programming, like most other languages. Now the Python conceptual hierarchy, and this is also similar to a lot of other programs. Programs are composed of modules, and they should be composed of modules if they are not. And then modules contain statement contain expression create and process object. And it really, the last number 4 is very important for what we do today. Everything is basically, if you have an object, you can have an expression to process it. Python measure built-in object. This is, it's very simple, but I think there are a few things I want to show here. All right. As you see here, numbers, everybody knows numbers. You can add to these, I think, complex numbers and a lot of other numbers. You have strings, and you have lists, dictionary. I heard the last one is pronounced, some people pronounce it tuple, some people pronounce it tuple. Pronounce it any way you want. It doesn't really make any difference as long as you know what it is. And then you have files, sits. Sits, as you all know, if anybody heard anything about mathematics, that's a mathematical term. It has some uses in Python or special uses. But what I want to see is the one that highlighted in yellow. Those are what they call in Python immutable objects. Those are objects that you cannot change. If you've had, for example, you write, I don't know, A equal to spam or hello or something, you cannot write it at all. You cannot change it. You can only copy it, but you cannot change it. It'll say, and this is really a great thing, because sometimes is in other language you can change anything. If you have something that you don't want to change, just put it in either in a string or a tuple, and it will not change. It will always there wherever you need it. The other thing is, you see the red one, those are sequences. And by definition, sequence is basically something like a series of points for 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, 6, and so on and so forth. And the good thing about these two objects is that you can basically offset them by stepping through them. In other words, you can go 1, 2, 3, or 2, 4, 6, or 3, 6, 9, and so on and so forth. So these are the major. I'm not going to talk much about files. Dictionaries and lists, and particularly lists, are by far the most versatile object in Python are lists and dictionary. And because both are mutable, so you can change anything you want. Oops. Yeah, I get it. Methods, this is just a term, is basically what a method is. Is basically, since these are all objects, so if you have a string, for example, object, you need a special function that process and work on that object. If you have numbers, you need a special function that work for that object, and so on and so forth. And that's basically what they are. Methods are functions. Looks like I missed the F there. that are attached to and act upon a specific object, which are triggered with a call expression. And we will see and we will see example of this. So this is like I said, the fact that if you remember which one is mutable and which one is immutable, you can, in the little exercises we have here shortly, you can see if something immutable, try to change it, and you will get an error message. Sample of expression operator and precedence. This is basically like most other language. It's the same. I'm pretty sure most of you know these. X, if, y, else, z. X or y, x and y, not x, x and y, x not in y, x in is y, x is not y. And those are the little things. I think what one thing is, in some languages, but some they don't have the two equal sign next to each other. And if they have the two equal sign and one equal sign, you know, even if you don't know what they mean, you know they mean different things, that basically. Common sequence operation. So we said, if I go back to the what I told you is sequence. So you have, if you have a sequence, you have common operation. Then it basically, the one thing I will point out is S plus T. In lots of languages, you cannot really add text. You cannot add strings, but in Python you can basically concatenation of the two. You can multiply, you can do all different kinds of things. So those are some of the this one here, SI, probably that's just basically indexing. So if you have, say, S is spam and you have it, or equal to spam, and you have S of 1, it'll give you the first letter. Or S of 0, it'll give you the first letter. So Python starts from 0 instead of 1. So the leftmost one is 0, 1, 2, 3. This is, again, is basically arranged. This is arranged with offset. And this is, you probably can guess what the len is. The len is a function for the length. Min is, and I want you to watch this one, max, and watch now, you have in the first three, len, min, and max. Everybody knows what min and max, but you see then s.count. That is one of the methods for string, for the s. If you want to have anything, so a total number of occurrence of x and s, basically you count it, and that will become a method now. Operation in mutable sequence types. Again, you can see those are very similar. Again, you see now when you say it's clear, that means now it become a method. Copy and all those kinds of, now these are methods operate on that object only. Insert the same thing, populate the same thing. It's just basically if you have the right object, it will operate on it, and of course, if you don't have the right object, it will give you an error message. Samples of built-in function. That's one thing is, I looked at the last available Python, and it has, based on my counting, it has about 69 function that basically standard function. These are just work with the with everything, and this is just some of them. I'm just going to show you like maybe the last one, the max. And that is a function. You can get the max, but it doesn't apply. It's kind of like a method, but it's not really a method. You don't have to have the dot in it. The max, if you get a max of a string, you're not going to get anything because it doesn't have any max there. Name reference object. That's one of the things when I started learning Python, that's really kind of confused me based on what I used to know. So for example, if you write this and you will write that, say a equal to 3, you know, in most languages say basically a is a variable and its value is a 3, and the interpreter, wherever it sees a, it puts a 3 in it. In this case, a is integer. How about this? In a lots of languages, if you know something, if you do something like this, especially language that requires you to declare your variables, you'll get an error message, right? In other words, how come A is a number integer and now you tell me A is string? You get, but in Python, because it's dynamically typed, it doesn't matter. So now it's a string. How about now? Now this is a floating point. So how is how that is put in the memory, and this is the picture. So basically you see the 3 is the object, and the object really doesn't care what the name of it. It just, the object lives in with the object, so you can call it anything you want. The only thing is in the A basically points to the object, or A reference the object. Now how about this one? Now if we're going to do the same thing, here is A equal to 3, and now it's say B is equal to A. How that works now? Which one is the object and which one is the reference? Here is how it works. It's basically the object didn't change, it's just now it has 2 names, and it depends on where you are in the program. Shared reference part 2, now you have A equal to 3, you have B equal to A, and now you have A equal to span. That is for somebody, like I said, who comes from a language where you have to declare your variable. This is very confusing. So what this means here, if you look at it for a little bit, so where is the object and how you reference these things? Anybody seen this before? Some of you may have seen this. Here is your answer. It's basically what happened is, now you switch. You know, the B, 3 was referenced by B and A is reference span. This is just, like I said. All right, that's it. I'm done for the first part. So thanks for listening and we'll take a very short break, 5 minutes or something, and then I have what I'm going to do. I have a bunch of code. Like I said, most of it's very simple. You can, I'm going to put it here. I'll ask you if you want to put it in your interpreter, whatever interpreter you have, and see if, see what you see, and I will run mine as well here too. Any questions? Like I said, and I don't know what time is it now, or? Quarter till. Okay, so I think I'm almost on time. So I think we can take, like I said, 5 or 10 minutes. That's, I think, the plan I have, 5 or 10 minutes break, and then we'll go back and we'll run some code. To type these 2 things, and I'm going to type in you see here is, and even if I can do this if I want, so at least that's all what you see. Just type in there in your interpreter and see what it tells you. And then, what does it say? I'm going to ask you, just type it in your interpreter like I do here. And it say false. What's wrong with this thing? No, there is no parentheses here. Think about it a little bit. And what I'm going to do is actually, I thought, and I still think that the best way to learn, make your own mistakes, and trust me, I'm here and I can guarantee you, if you think somebody is going to teach you programming, it's what people can give you like general guidelines, that the learning it, you have to do it on your own. So I want you then to run the next thing. This one here. Just hit enter and see what you get. Maybe you will find out the answer why. Shh. Mister, you don't give the answer to people. Otherwise, I may have to kick you out of this class. You guys, did you see the difference? Because those are not the same. And that is what the floating point arithmetics are all about. So when you type numbers in, lots of people say, well, the computer doesn't work. No, the computer does work. It's just numbers are, don't want to get into that, but numbers are fraction. They have decimal point, and if you have all different kinds of numbers, and what happened with the computer, they have to basically put them in some sort of a series and convert them to a certain number, and depends also on the accuracy and how much you put the accuracy. But at least an idea when you deal with arithmetics, be careful what you're dealing with. And there are a lot of functions where you can cut numbers and do a lot of things. Am I clear here? In other words, the reason they are not the same, yet they appear the same, because the floating point arithmetics and how computer represent numbers. So at least you should be aware of this. Am I clear here? Okay. How about you do the next thing now? And I'm going to go, just type the next thing here, and I'm going to so you have L equal to and M equal to, just type them and see what you get, what answers you get. You got some answers, right? Well, I'm going to give you a minute to type, or excuse me. I can type in my interpreter now. Since I have them all in text file, I can, oops. In here. There you go. So if I type L, that gives me the same thing. Now, you guys, I want you to tell me what the computer says. Says an error. So what kind of mistakes I have here? It's your job to figure it out. No, I'm not you talking. Shh, no, you have no job here, mister. The job is for the rest of people. So what's wrong here? Very good. M is not defined, right? So basically he says, if I write here, and some of these done, now as you'll agree, may it work? All right, try now. Write M equal to L. And if I try it here in my, because I didn't define him here, I didn't copy it here. But you see the point here, right? Now is, can somebody tell me what the difference between when you write M equal to L, it tells you true, right? And when you write L equal to M, it tells you true, right? What's the difference between the two? What the difference between the two equal signs and the one equal sign, the single equal sign? And what? In other words, he was saying is the single equal sign, that's for object equality. The object is a list here. In this case, is an object. If we draw it, it will be like the list here and the name here, L. And so now when you say L equal to M, basically equality, and I've already written in the interpreter M equal to L. So in terms of object, they are equal, but also they are equal in value. In other words, if you type M, it will give you a list of 1, 2, 3. Make sense here to people? Some? Okay. So we'll go to the next one. And basically you can see here where I'm going. You do the, I'm sorry here, my text editor is, I just use net. So just to check if x equal to y and if x is y. And by the way, just before, if I don't forget, is I'll be more than happy. Like I said, these are very simple things, but if you are interested in learning Python or need resources or you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer whatever question you have. And if I can't answer it, I will find somebody else who can answer it. So I will definitely. So is x equal to y? Equal to y? Everybody agree? And I can write it here in my interpreter, but those of you who have interpreter, I think maybe some of you don't have it, so maybe I will write it here. Here is, okay, now. And if I say x, y. All right, I want to leave other people to figure it themselves, mister. Let them figure it themselves. The greatest way to learn is to learn from your mistake. The computer tells you right away there is some mistake. So check it out, figure it out. That's the whole fun about programming. And everybody agree that if you have them both in the same capital letter or small or big, then they will be the same? Yes? No? Kind of? All right. It looks like we are moving along very well. So we'll go to the next one. This is just basically do this. Learn something. And fewer just to guess. Just type it as is. And what do you think len does? L-E-N. That's a terrible function because if you remember your high school math, it could be a logarithm, but this is not the logarithm. Len stands for short for length. You know what it does now, right? Everybody? And you can basically, if you want, you can change it, and you will see if I get here. That will likely to give me 3, but if I can change it and put whatever I want in it, and then you guessed it, it's going to count. It give me the number of. Make sense here again? It's just very simple thing here. Here is one more. I want to, let's say, just try this again, and you have a very, very simple for loops. Every language have many types of loops. This is for loop. You have tons of them. Just run that little thing and then check out those. Just see, for example, let's say, is K in my job? What is this? Just try to play with it for a few minutes and see what you can guess, and I will run them in my. You mean, let's see. But Is that what you want? You are the only one who's complaining in this class here. Everybody is acting nicely here. Just 1 second, please. So I'll make you happier, see? Now the question is this an n that is kind of requires, but you just write k or whatever letter you want and then n and put the variable name and it. So if I were to run this, it did what it's supposed to do. And then it say, is k in my job? So basically, k in my job. And when you have n and my job and the same, you know what happened, right? Make sense here? Does it make sense? And again, the good thing is sometimes what I teach is I give them something intentionally wrong and say, so if there's something wrong or if you get an error message, just read the error message. It will help me greatly. It helps me too. See what is that error message means. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest learning things is you hope you don't make errors, but everybody makes errors. So the trick is just read the error and see if you can fix it. And if anybody fix it, it looks like probably if I did it this way, it will work better. See what happened here? Because when you put k without quotation marks, Python doesn't understand. They said, what is this? This doesn't look like text. Does it make sense now? And then you can check the other ones. Like I said, this might be too easy, but as we go along, it gets a little bit more interesting. Is that very straightforward? And I will wait a little bit if you're typing. And by the way, I can increase the font if it's not big enough. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know if this has font or not. Format. A font here. Okay, got you. So how about we make it humongous? Is that big enough? Maybe too big? Yeah, good. Thank you. And again, one more time, like I said, if anybody is interested in learning about Python or data science, or we even have a computer scientist here, we'll be happy to talk to you after the class. If you need anything, we can help. We'll be more than happy to do so. At least give you an advice or an opinion. Is that clear here so far? Almost everybody finished this? Right, we go to the next one. Just do this again. Do this here. Just type them as they are. If you have S spam, type S0. Type S to the -2. And I don't need to tell you, but just type them. If you don't know, type them and see what they get you, and you will have an idea. So do all the 4 of them, and it would be actually best if you can predict or at least guess what this will give me. And if you can predict it, I think that would help, because that will help you understand these type of things. Now, in some language, they don't have negative indexing, but you could probably guess it even if you've never seen it. If it's positive indexing, it goes from left to right. You guess it. Negative indexing will come the other way around. It goes from right to left. But try them all, and before you hit the enter, please just guess. Say what letter is going to give me, or what bunch of letters is going to give me, and see what they actually do. I can type it here in my interpreter and see what. The one thing is, with the Python interpreter, you cannot have a clear screen, and this is really a bummer, because actually last night this guy here and he actually wrote a function that you can clear the screen, but you have to exit the interpreter every time before, so it kind of defeats the person. But that was a really good thing for somebody to do it in 10-15 minutes. Find a function that will clear screen, because that really, it helps. Now is you either have to do it if. Okay, so I'm just gonna write the same here. Let's say I'm gonna write these two. So here is basically you have you can guess it here, S of 0. I mean, this is something you must be able to guess. Would that be fair enough? Is that it should, 0, that means the very first one. Make sense here? And then you can guess it. If you try S, I'm not even going to finish, S to the -2, what that will give you. I'll just maybe do one with the negative thing here. Maybe I'll do them all. Why not? So it just guess like which letter is going to give me, and if you guess wrong, so what? Make sense here? Sort of. All right. What letter does it give you? A, right? And A, if you start from the right and count 1, 2, which one will give you? It'll give you A. Make sense here? Everybody? All right. I'm going to run, I think this is 1 to 3. You probably guessed it. Give me 1, 2, and 3. Yes. And then 1 and to everything. That means start from 1 and go on. Basically, that will give you everything except the first letter, because the first letter starts with 0. That's one thing. Is also, when I first started Python, learning Python, is I have everything I knew before. It starts with 1, and now it starts with 0. They just basically replace everything. Then how about the last one? Let's say you don't remember the last one, and you can think about it. It's kind of the opposite of the one in the middle, but let's try the last one. So it's everything from -1 in the front, give me everything. Would that be fair enough? That's what we expected? Kind of, sort of? Not quite? Well, think about it. It'll give you, remember, when you go from right to left, It say the first one, the very far in the right, I don't want it. Just give me the rest of it. Just give you SPA. Make sense now? Everybody here? Okay. We'll move on to the next step. You can probably again guess this, but go ahead, and this is, I would say this, since it's a kind of bunch of nonsense, write anything you want, as long as, you see what I'm saying here? You don't have to write exactly what I have on the screen, but those things, as long as you have 10 characters or more, it works. Make sense here? But try to write it. Let's see, A, B, C, D, it's a F, G, H, I, J, K. So just all the alphabet letters or so. Is that very straightforward again? This is basically a string, and string is a sequence, and sequence you can index it as a in lists. Is that clear here? Everybody's so far so good. Anybody wants me to run these just to see how many, like if you were to take a guess, if you didn't run the first one, let's say S1 10 2, what do you think that means? If you run it, you know what it means. Am I clear here? It basically says go from 1 to 10, and every second one give it to me. Don't give me the first, give me the second, give me the fourth, the sixth, and so on and so forth. Make sense here? That's the idea here. And one of the last thing, if we get to it, like the power of, when it comes to math and statistics, you need really a lot of processing power, and you need what they call a matrices. We'll have one here. Most of anything that 2D or more, you need matrices for it, and sometimes you get huge matrices, and so they have what they call Numpy or Numpy, which is really short for a numerical Python, and it has all these kinds of very fancy indexing. You can basically do all this. Fortunately, we don't have time to get to it, but anyway, is that clear here, folks? I can run it here in my, maybe I'll run it just for fun. And I think this should run them all together, all the same here. Everybody got with the same thing here? If you run them all? Any questions about this? All right, we'll move on then. Again, this is all about indexing. I think for people who are new, this will be very interesting for many reasons. So try to run it and see what you get. And again, whenever you get an error message, it tells you there is something not working. So what? Try it again, and I will I'm going to give you a shot here to run it yourself, and I'm going to run it, see what we can get out of here. We have a problem now. Anybody has an idea? Which is, if you don't, that's perfectly okay. What's wrong here? Very good point. He says strings are immutable object. You cannot change them. And that's exactly what you get. Basically, what you're trying to do here is you're trying to change something that is immutable. It cannot be changed. So that error message has a very, let's say if you forgot or something, here's the error message tells you cannot do that. It's good to know that that's the reason, because now you know if I will do this the same thing to a tuple, it will give me the same thing, because these are the two immutable objects. But if you do the second one, is what's the difference between spam and burger, but do it and see what you get. The last one, if you didn't bunch it in, it's basically you write is 4 and then a plus burger plus, you'll agree that you probably, if you program another language, you've never seen something like this. At least in the other one, you cannot add up these texts, but look at, go ahead, type it in and see. And you don't have to type burger, type whatever you want, type anything, ABC, and see what it would do. As long as you know what is the first index, what the first basically list and the last list do. And again, I will run it here in a minute or two in my interpreter. And I actually was going to bring a very big data file and just let people practice it. The problem is, how can you send it to lots of people that you don't know, and it's just difficult to share. But because that way really you can learn all different kinds of things, not just you. But this is at least for now. Is everybody done with this? I'm just gonna type this, and now tell me why this works. If I write now is, why this works but the previous one didn't work? In other words, what you did here is you didn't change the object itself. You just added something and you give it a new name. So basically now it's the same variable. It basically refers two different objects. And they both are immutable. Make sense here? And that's all what's into it. And the last one is, we'll agree, is just basically adding up stuff. The last, or maybe I don't know. Just think about it for a second, even if you don't try it. So here is, and I will speak from personal experience. In the past is when I see this, and I said, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. You can't add these things, but you can. This is just the way. So if I type this one here, you probably, at least, you should be able to say, well, this is basically, it gives me part of that object, the S object, and then another, it added burger and it added something else. Well, let's see what, this is what you get. And basically, you just got part of the new spam, not the old spam, the spam with a letter, and then you put next to it burger, you just combine all the three of them. And this is just, again, as you can see here, most of what we did is we do it with lists here. And it's hard to remember everything, but the square parentheses are for lists. And so, all right, let's have a little bit more. The only thing I will say about this here is the point about this piece here is very simple thing. This is where we get to methods, and there are tons of methods. You see, if you're I've been teaching for a while and also taken lots of classes, and I always love it when somebody said, "You remember?" I said, "No, I don't remember. It's been a long time." So this is wherever there is a dot something, that's now a method, because those are specific string methods, and basically they do the job there. For example, you guessed it here, it replaces something. And if you just type it in, it would replace whatever you want to replace with whatever you give it to replace with. All right, let's go to the next one. Well, you guessed it, probably the next one you don't even need to do it. Would that be fair enough? Maybe the same? How about now we'll go, I don't know if I'll finish or not. But okay. This is also kind of interesting for people who haven't just tried this. And again, it's try, since this is like a it's just an educational type thing, try to guess what is it giving me, or what would it give me before you hit the enter. Just try to guess. Clearly, the first one should be very straightforward. Would you agree? That's one of the main function in basically the base function, those 69. Len stands for length. That if you did everything right, it should give you 3. The first statement. But I'm really interested in the third and the fourth statement. And please try to guess before you hit enter. Just try to guess. If you get it right, you get it right. If not, you learn something new. So what? Okay, just you've already done it. The third and the fourth. Sorry. Did you type it in? Well, yeah, just type it in, hit enter, and see what you get. It's all right. You get that. And then I know it's kind of hard for you guys to type these things. It would be much better, like I said, unfortunately, I have no way of giving you all these. Did you guys see it? And one thing is, I also can tell you from experience, when you do programming, is you never get frustrated, or you should never get really, I said, I don't know what it is, or this is not working. Sometimes it just like it doesn't work now. 5 minutes later, it just you type it in and said, what's happened? What did I do? And it just that's the way it works. Is this all right? Everybody got these here? Let me just, you probably guessed it, what this will do here, this statement. It's basically all what it does is you are adding 2 lists. Would that be fair enough? So guess what it does? It just basically added the two the 2 lists. Would that be fair enough? It just concatenate the 2 lists. Am I clear here? The next one is, again, when I remember when I first looked at this stuff, it just kind of threw me off. I said, what is this? But now at least you see what it does. It basically gave you, the trick is it gave you 1 list. Even though it looks from, it's basically a list of 1 element. In this case, it basically repeated the element itself, and yet it's still 1 list. Am I clear here? Some other ways, and I don't know if we have time, is you actually can get them a bunch of lists next to each other. In other words, in a way you can do this is by duplicating or replicating the list itself. So this is this is again that probably in many other languages doesn't make sense. If you do this, you see what it is. In this case, it's just like concatenate a couple of them, and that's the way the language is designed. That again, the aim here, as I said, is just to get them to see a lot of things, and here is again you want this is like the in function, and it's like anything is basically you can guess what the answer is, and this is a very simple for loop. It just go through like any loops sequentially, go 1 2 3 4 until you get the final one. And this is the structure and Python, the indenting. That is, that's all what I did is I typed these in basically a text editor and I indented themselves, but in a lots of Python editors they will do the indenting for you and everything else, so you will not and I'm going to do something. In fact, right now I'm going to change something and see you guys if you tell me will it work or not. And before you do you think this will work? Don't run it, just do you think this will work? And the good thing about computers, you don't have to think, you just put it in and see what the computer tells you. Am I making sense here? Do you think it works? Okay. And the reason very obvious, right? Because in Python, the indenting is very important. In other words, like this, it doesn't understand. You have for loop, but expect there is something underneath the for loops, and therefore there is no indenting. It's a mistake. Good. Let's go more. I hope we'll get. This is kind of a new thing. I want you to look at this. Just basically, the first one is just look at it, and it comes after a very important concepts in Python. So what do you think the difference here if you do, let's say, res equal to C multiplied by 4 for C in spam? This looks like a loop, would we all agree? But why in this form? This is a very important part of Python. It's called comprehension. And it's easier, it's faster, it's more compact than a for loop or while loop or anything. But try it, and I think try both of them, and you see they are the same. They should give you the same result. So try both of them. Don't worry about the comment. Just basically type the first one, or if you want me, if you guys are tired of typing, I can just think about it for a minute, and I'll put it in the interpreter. And it would have probably been better if you do the loop first, because now the loop you'll understand, at least you'll have a better idea. When you do the comprehension way, you will see they are equivalent, and if you did it, they should give you the same results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bunch in the loop first. Oops. Oops. So now it didn't give me anything. What's wrong with this thing? I ran it, it ran, now it didn't give me anything. Maybe, what else? Very good. In other words, I assigned a list and I told it to put everything in the list, but so I have to call the list to see what's in it. The first one is, let's say the list is empty, right? Well, let's see now if the list is empty or not. Because if you don't have the empty list defined, then the loop doesn't know where to put it in because it doesn't know. Am I clear here? All right. Now I will run the comprehension part, and like I said, these are somewhat very important topic, maybe a little bit advanced topics, but let's see if it's give us the same thing. Same thing. And this is, like I said, there are a lots of the power of Python is not only in the basic language, but really there are topics, a little bit more advanced topics that are very, very powerful, and they are made for, a lots of data, a lots of stuff. So is that so far so good? Let's go to the next one. I think from now on they will be a little bit interesting. So this is basically a matrix, and we'll get to have more powerful, useful way. I have before this guy now tell me to put this in the middle. I'll figure it myself. So you can see a lot of typing, but like I said, if you just take a look if you want, and I will just say, guess what's each one of them. Can you agree in the first one? It's basically asking for a list of lists. Would that be fair enough? That's what it is. It just gives you a list of bunch of lists. That's it. And let's see what that equal. And then we are interested in the little bit of indexing. Like I said, I hope we will have time to get to one of the, like I said, the most important Python module. You can't really say one is more important than the other, but they come like a lots of depository now. If you download Python from there, they will download Numpy and SciPy, and these are extremely powerful and useful. So since it's easier for me to put this, and I will and basically it's a list of a 3 lists. Does make sense here? Now if you go try for example matrix 1 1 or just 1 by itself, just see what would it give you. Unfortunately if you don't have the matrix you cannot do that. So if I in fact it's already given, so it's always, I think in my view, when you type in, especially and unfortunately something like this, you do it on the fly, and so you would guess it if it's a matrix 1, it give me the first element of the matrix. Make sense here? And since this is a matrix of 3 elements, I'm telling it to give me the first element. It'll just give me the first one. Make sense here? And let's see if I'm right. Give you 4, 5, and that was was it the first element now? Then I don't know what I'm talking about. That's what this guy is saying. It gave us the second one because it starts from 0, right? All right, and you probably guessed that the second one, it says, give me the first element, or not the first element, maybe element number 1 of the element number 1 of the matrix. Make sense now here? In other words, give me, basically, if you want the second element in the matrix, the second element in the list of the second one, right? Kind of, or maybe I'm confusing people. In other words, if the matrix here, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, if you type matrix 1, it'll give you 4, 5, 6. Why didn't, like I said, why didn't give you 1, 2, 3? Because you have to start at 0. And so the next one, this one here, where it say, for example, and I'll just do this. In fact, I'll do this. This one here. Watch now. I'm not going to hit enter, but watch what it does. It's very straightforward. It basically says, okay, I need the second element. That really means the third element because we start from 0, right? So give me the first element here, the 0, of the third element of the matrix. Make sense here? And that's basically what what it does. And if I do, I believe it. My computer believes me, and it does what I ask it to do. So. All right, we'll have do more. I hope. Now this is an interesting subject, and maybe everybody. These are long. Unfortunately, you can write maybe some of them. Well, I only have an example of Numpy. Let's see, how much time do I have? Ooh, we didn't even cover dictionaries, and those are. I have one example of Numpy. If you look at dictionary, are really the second most important object in Python. I think tuples and sets are not, they're not because of their nature, but dictionaries are very, very important. So I would ask if you have a few minutes, at least do this. And I promise after this, I said you have about 5 minutes? If you could just copy this and run it, and at least look at the structure. And you can see, well, anyway, I don't know, it's easy for me. You can see, maybe you can't see. So basically what I want is just type some of them and say, this is a dictionary. Why this is a dictionary? Because it has keys and variable. In other words, in list, we don't have. Here is you have key, you have eggs and spam and ham, and then you have, this is also nested dictionary. In other words, you can have a list in a dictionary and all combination of the 3 of them. Am I clear here? And that's good, depends on the problem, but these are very flexible object for Python, list and dictionary. You can do so many things. You can have dictionary and list and dictionary, and you keep going until so they are very, very useful, and also mutable, so you can change them. All right, I'm going to give you a minute or two since this guy tells me I have a few more minutes, but I'm going to show one little thing about, I really have a lot more it looks like, but maybe another time, but I'll show you the power of, I can't really do justice to Numpy, but I'll show you as I told you, Python has incredible set of modules, but 4 of the most important modules is numerical Python, they call it short for Numpy, and then scientific Python, that's short for, or SciPy, and then you have pandas, that if you have a lot of tabular data, panda is a really good thing if some of you dealing with tabular data, and then you have matplotlib, which is basically a charting utility. All Python comes with these, and so if you type these things, or at least hopefully you'll have an idea, and you have even the answers there. So if you look at you have D, it says that, and D of ham, you can see here the ham is basically, you can change it. So instead of ham is equal to 1, the second statement is say ham, you can put a list in its place. Am I clear here? And so on and so forth. So like few of you type it, I'm going to give you another minute, please, and then I'll just do one thing because Numpy is really it just the brain, Numpy and SciPy are the brain, and I will here shortly just use the Numpy is Python matrices or Numpy Python matrices column arrays. This is like a array is basically sits for anything. Array is like a vector. You can have a vector, and you can have two-dimensional vector, and you have three-dimensional vector, and you can have also, and that's array. So guys, I'm going to give you 1 minute before this guy is going to shut everything here on me and tell me to stop. So, yeah, cut it off, but and then I will show. And here is what I'll do, guys, since maybe 1 or 2, I promise I'll send you this in your email or something if you care. You can look at it. I can even give you the whole thing if you care. Let me go to, since I don't have time, go to NumPython here. It's the last one here. And here is basically what I do is I have to, if Numpy is not loaded because these are huge, and so what you want really, you want to load only what you need. So I have to say import NumPy as NP. So now it takes some time and it loads. Now I can use all the power of numerical Python. And if I just say this, let's see if, no, this is not going to do it. Say there are an error, so you guys have to figure what the error is. I'm not getting any help here, so I'll try again. What's going on here? Tell you what's going on here. Here is what I didn't do. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, now it doesn't want to. You have to, let's see. Now that should do it. Now it doesn't want to do it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to try it one more time. Let's see. I'll do this. And AA equal to NP dot. Let's see if that doesn't. So basically, what I did is I forgot to type the NP. That's the numerical Python. And now watch what I do. Now it gives me a matrix that I know. Am I clear here? And now I'll do the last thing. So now it just like the numerical Python becomes like a method. So if I would say the NP diagonal and say AA, you guessed what it will give me, right? It will give, this is something that I don't know how many of you know a little bit of matrices. These are basically, it gives you diagonal rows. So if I do that, it'll give you the row of the matrix, and maybe I should type AA. Yeah, type AA is there. If you see AA is here, so it goes 0, 6, 12, or it goes 1, 7, 13, it goes diagonal. Am I clear here? On that note, thank you guys for listening. I'll be more than happy, like I said, if you have any questions, anything that I can answer. And like I said, if we can't answer it now, if you need any help that we can provide, I'll be more than happy to. And if you have any questions, if I can't answer them now, just leave me an email or a phone number, and I'll do my best and see what I can do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.